I'm Heather Fernandez. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Solv Health.
What is Solv, and what was the sort of impetus, or what made you want to start Solv?
Gosh, what is Solv? So, we think about our purpose as freeing the stress of everyday healthcare for every American consumer. What we do as a company is we sell software on the supply side of that market, the healthcare market, which is to urgent care centers, primary care, hospital systems, labs. And then on the consumer side, we have an app which connects consumers with that care. And we think about three very basic questions. Where should I go for the problem I have? Even if it's my couch, when can I be seen? And how much does it cost me? You ask, how did we start Solv? My professional journey, Jeff, is nonlinear. And so I'll go into it later, should you want me to. But right prior to Solv, I was an early employee at a different marketplace, a company called Trulia, where our mission was, how do you help consumers make better decisions in real estate? It was a startup dream. I did it over a decade. I had 3 kids while I was at Trulia, meaning I became a healthcare consumer in a meaningfully different way. And at the end of that journey, I just had 2 things that I didn't have at the beginning of that journey. One was the capacity to start something new, meaning in terms of my life circumstances. And then the second was the will. And my will really drew me towards, how do I work on a really hard consumer problem that deserves to be worked on by smart people? And that landed me in healthcare.
I feel like the stereotypical founder is often thought of as like a bro from Stanford wearing a hoodie, right? And like it's a young male. You're not that archetype, right? You started this when you already had a family, kind of like second act in your life, certainly, and whatnot. And like when you think about the capacity and explain to me what you mean by that, because that's fascinating.
There's a big debate in Silicon Valley, or a big discussion in the Valley around getting more women on cap tables, getting more women into investing, so that those folks will either develop or fund a broader spectrum of problems that deserve to be worked on. I'm sort of a perfect example of that. I did go to business school. Coming out of business school, I certainly didn't have the mental model of starting my own company. You and I met around that time, right? It was just not even in my mind, because I needed to pay my debt. I needed to make an income to support my family. And not just my immediate family, but some in my extended family. And so when I say capacity, the fact that I was on Trulia's cap table as an early employee gave me some financial freedom to take the risk. And so that tech bro that you're talking about coming out of whatever school also has the capacity, maybe because they don't have significant commitments, maybe because they have financing through their own family or means, but I didn't. And so actually having the capacity to swing and try was really liberating.
When did you know you were going to start something, I guess? And what were the sort of top people, things that gave you that confidence to do that?
I was almost a decade at Trulia. We were bought by Zillow. And once I'd made the decision to leave, even at that point, I did not think I'm definitely going to start a company. What happened was my current co-founder, Daniele Franetti, and I were having lunch. We both decided to leave. We're talking about the companies that we're interviewing with. We both found ourselves very focused on 2 categories, healthcare and education, because those are categories that we wanted to work in. And we both found ourselves really drawn to startups. And he said to me over lunch, do you think we should try? And honestly, Jeff, I probably did not even think about it once prior to him saying that. And what we did after some time is we committed to each other a year, because we didn't have an idea. We didn't have a side hustle where we were working on what this company would be while we were closing out Trulia. And so we committed to each other a year to figure out, is there a company that we can build in one of these 2 spaces that leverages our superpower? And our superpower was building consumer marketplaces, where we think we can build a many billion-dollar business. And the answer could be no, but we committed a year. A year after that, we raised $6.25 million from Bill Gurley at Benchmark, with some tests under our belt and a deck.
What was the process by which you kind of explored ideas? Were there other ideas? How did you land on this?
It's funny, because back to the stereotype of the the tech bro in the hoodie, right, who's obsessing about some problem their whole life. We were very methodical around how we thought about the problems. We were focused on these two spaces. Frankly, very quickly, probably within the first month, we were almost entirely focused on healthcare. We had a shared Evernote account where we would store all of the data. We started by first just meeting every smart person that would talk to us in the space and just understanding the landscape. And what we found was people were focusing on a number of categories that either we didn't care enough about because it was not something that I wanted to spend the next big chunk of my life on, or we just had no business working on, right? And so there was a lot in enterprise software. Make the big players of healthcare more efficient, and you would have these downstream benefits to consumers. It's a good problem to solve. I was not interested in doing it. And on the other hand, you had some really great science. There are new therapeutics, new discoveries, which fascinating, but I have a New York Times level understanding of most of those problems, not one where I feel like I can go and start a company. But when we thought, actually, can we build a consumer marketplace for consumers who are seeking care, then more of our skill set, our general passion sort of came to bear. And so the process was basically talk to whoever would talk to us, go deep, research and understand. And then we just did a simple map of the consumer journey of, how do I find my insurance? How do I figure out where I'm going to go if I have an issue? How do I pay? What are my options? What if I know that the bill is wrong? And we just sort of knocked all of those out until we got to a place where we thought, this is it, right? And that was basically this. How do we reduce friction in everyday healthcare? Powering the supply side with software, integrated software across the supply side, and a consumer app around helping you answer those questions and ultimately transact. And then we were off.